So, as we come up quickly on the end of the year, got us thinking, what are your favourite rugby moments from 2020? What are your favourite moments of the entire year? Please, let us know, there's been plenty. We started the year with France beating England. We had Super Rugby Aotearoa, we had plenty in there. We also had a moment that will be coming up for years to come as Argentina pulled their first ever win over the All Blacks. What was your favourite rugby moment of 2020? And we will read plenty out on the final show of the year next week. So it might be the end of the year, but it was the start of a new season of the Heineken Champions Cup, which has a new format, which some people understand, but it led to plenty of really standout games. So things started off pretty well with the first game between Northampton and Bordeaux, coming down to a late kick by Matthew Jalabert to tie things up, with just a couple minutes left to go. Only for that kick to come off the post and Santiago Cordero to be the first to react to score just next to it and win the game when Bordeaux were looking to just tie it up. It was a brilliant start to the competition that then continued by, on the Saturday, giving us a complete opposite kind of occasion as Claremont and Bristol scored over 80 points between them, just running in try after try after try on both sides. Kotaro Mashishima scored 3. Damien Penno got back as well after a few injury problems. It was just rugby. It was just lots and lots of tries. It was the kind of game where you couldn't go out to make a cup of tea at any point. We had actually quite a few away wins. We had Toulouse kicking it off, Cheslin Colby scoring 2 tries as they beat Ulster. We had La Rochelle winning in Edinburgh. We had the Scarlets pulling off quite a big win out in Bath. However, after some away team madness on Saturday, including Leinster running away with it, the normal service of the home sides was resumed as Exeter most notably put in a 42-0 win over a Glasgow team who travelled for 7 hours on a coach, only to just get kind of battered off it and sent back home to get back on that coach. We saw Racing just hold out. Connacht put in a great comeback after being well out of it at half-time, and Munster managed to battle through against Harlequins. It wasn't an easy game by any stretch, but in the end they won reasonably comfortably. Meanwhile, in the Currie Cup, we had another unlikely result as the Bulls lost their first game of the season. The Sharks pulled off a big underdog win, perhaps the biggest upset we've seen in the Currie Cup so far this season, and possibly the biggest we'll see all season. They were fantastic, and the Bulls were left kind of licking their wounds. I don't know, can Bulls lick their? It depends where it is. Going for Mullen, certainly he wasn't. I don't think he's actually able to get wounded. Meanwhile, Western Province managed a bonus point win, but the Cheetahs losing to the Lions may mean they can't quite hit playoff spots. It's all getting quite tight for everyone that isn't the Bulls. Meanwhile, in the Premier 15s, unfortunately we had the top of the table class postponed. It didn't get to happen. But we did get a big result as Bristol, who started really well with Jasmine Joyce scoring her, I think, 826th try of the season so far, put it officially top of the try scoring charts this one, only for Worcester to pull off their first win in 5 weeks. And I think it's safe to say, after the final whistle, they were pretty happy about it. There was also this week some recognition for 2 very different legends of the game. Nigel Owens finally hung up his whistle after 100 test matches, after many years of blowing his whistle in rugby. And in Australia, Gary Quinlivan received the Nick Farr-Jones Award for the kind of heart and spirit of the game. He's been regarded as the heart and soul of the Brumbies for many years. He's been involved in the club for a very long time. However, this week is perhaps most notable for one thing and one thing only, because we finally had, I say finally, it's 3 years out, the draw for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Tickets go on sale in March, so in order to discuss how the pools fell, I had a little chat to Johnnie Beattie, former Scotland international. It's an absolute joy and a privilege to be joined this morning by the one and only Mr. Johnnie Beattie. How are you doing? How are you?
Very well, thanks, mate. Enjoyed the draw yesterday.
As a Scotsman, how are you feeling about that?
It's going to be hard. I think looking at that pool, from my perspective, it's probably the hardest pool. You've got 3 teams that are in the top 10 in the world. South Africa obviously ranked 1. You then add into that probably Tonga or Samoa, just to add an extra bit of spice and physicality. It's going to be extremely hard, but you want to pit yourself as a player and as a team against the best other players and teams in the world. So I'd be excited.
Kind of been doing this podcast, following France very closely. That draw with New Zealand was the moment that got the loudest noise from me as I was watching it live.
It's phenomenal. And you think back to historically the amount of times they've played against each other, the clashes they've had. You know, personally, I hope it's the opening game of the tournament. It'd be amazing to see that go off with a bang.
What names other than the Intermax and the Duponts and the Charles Olivon and so on that we've seen this last year, what other names do you think we might see come the World Cup? Who should we keep an eye on?
There's one guy who I think is going to be an absolute monster on the world stage, and that's Sekou Makalu. He plays back row for Stade Francais. If you look him up, look at his YouTube clips and some of the tries that he's scored so far this season for Stade Francais. He is a freakish athlete, one of the best I've ever seen. He is unbelievable. Raw talent, pace, flair, can finish from the halfway line. He's devastating once he gets to an edge on attack. And 50-metre channel, he's just a wonder to watch.
What lineup stand out to you? What are you most looking forward to looking at that draw?
I think also everyone's looking forward to Japan again, the giant killers, as they have been now. They've knocked off South Africa, they've knocked off Ireland and Scotland in the last World Cup. I think everyone's going to be looking forward to seeing them against England and Argentina to see if they can do it again. And then there's been a bit of a moan, you know, it must be rigged. The other pool that everyone's talking about, Wales, Australia and Fiji meeting each other for the 4th time in a row. But if you think about the personnel that are actually in there, the nuts and bolts, you think Wales, they've changed their coach, Pivac's come in, Dave Rennie's come in, Fiji might be an altogether another proposition with Vern Cotter, who I know very well, come in and taking the reins. So yes, it might be the same nations, but the actual players on the ground and the way they're coached and the way they play will change over time and evolve. So it will still be exciting, even though it's the same countries.
You've obviously worked with Vern Cotter, you know him well. What do you think he'll bring to Fiji? What do you think he'll be able to change?
If you look back to the sort of copybook and what he did with Clermont, he unleashed a backline by being pragmatic, aggressive and brutal up front. And I think that's what he'll bring. He'll bring a certain level of organisation and grunt up front that will allow that backline to flourish.
What a terrifying thought that is for every other country.
Exactly.
And on that, I'll ask the horrible question that no one wants to hear at this point, this far out. Do you have a favourite? Who would you consider winning it?
You have to look at France as a team who haven't maybe been on that stage or consistently been there, or favourites, or even you wouldn't even put them in the hat to be winning. But I think at home, the emotional drive, the support they have here, the emergence of all this talent that we're seeing in the top 14 that's performing at international level with a proper coaching team. I'm hugely excited for them as hosts and to watch them as a national team. It could be their chance to win something and do something really special.
Last week, we asked you for your favourite, the best moments of the decade, your favourite rugby matches, favourite finishes to a game, whatever, of the last 10 years. So we have here quite a few people saying Scotland 38, England 38 from 2019, the Six Nations, that final game where Scotland came from absolutely nowhere. Finn Russell pulling the strings, scoring the try to equalise. Scotland pull ahead with Sam Johnson scoring, only for George Ford to score in the post in the last minute. Brilliant, incredible game. Jack Marlin says Japan beating the Springboks in 2015 and Japan then getting out their pool in the following World Cup in 2019. Really good, great, incredible moments. Jordan says the best moment with Faf de Klerk's hair and Jack Goodhue's hair being on the same pitch at the same time. Hard to argue with that. Oh man, Oliver says when Australia when the blood is low. Oh wait, I'm sorry mate. At least you've beaten the All Blacks in, you know, the last 5 weeks. Wales haven't beaten 70 years. When Georgia won over Tonga, yes, in 2015, second game of that World Cup. Brilliant win, Gogodze was incredible. Oh, Eddie Jones reacting to the way Italy played in 2017 against England when he went, it's not rugby mate, it's not rugby.
So it wasn't a game of rugby, we still haven't played a game.
2017 Super Rugby, Stormers v Chiefs, whole game, but the infamous Dylan Leeds offload, the kind of round his back as he was falling to the ground. Canada winning the HSBC 7 Singapore in 2017. And Saoirse says, and I think this is a good note, the 3 Irish teams, the men's, the women's, and the under-20s all beating the All Blacks. Okay, so that brings us to an end. I hope you're having a lovely week. I hope you're somewhat satisfied with the pool draw for whatever country you happen to cheer for. And I'll see you next week for the final feed of the year.